number one thing really with people is I don't have time. I don't have time. Like life is crazy. Everything's crazy. I have kids, I have dogs, I have stuff, I have things. And a lot of people might say it's like super easy for me to just do art all damn day because I don't work currently. I worked
Totally.
night for 22 years and I even did art, did that with toddlers and babies and things. And here's how I do it. So first and foremost, I take care of all the simple shit that people need. I take
Yeah.
of everyone's needs. I let the dog out. I make sure the kids are fed. I make sure that hubby's happy. I make sure everybody
Yes,
gets
everyone else gets taken care of, which
before
I feel like yes.
right? If possible, I take care of like little things that will interrupt me.
Right.
That's first.
Yeah.
I build in my time. I say to myself, okay, if I have a crazy day and you know that it's just not happening, don't bother, right? If you know that you can build in your self-care, this is your time for yourself. Just like you do, you take care of yourself. You eat, you shower, you work out, you do things to take care of yourself. And I view this, and my whole family views it as self-care. It makes me sane. So there's that. I don't feel guilty about it either. Nobody is allowed to give me shit for it. If they need something, they can certainly interrupt me, but nobody's, oh my God, you're doing art again. None of that. No guilt. Realistic chunks of time, right? Maybe you can only spend 30 minutes arting today. You can't spend 8 hours, but maybe you can work in 30 minutes. You put a load of laundry in, you start dinner, and then you go sit down and color or paint or do whatever it is you do for 30 minutes. Maybe you sketch your picture tonight and you paint it tomorrow. Break it up into chunks. Multitask with your kids. Involve them. Like, you don't have to work on a project with me. I buy them their own supplies. They sit there and they do tutorials with you right next to me, and they do them at their own pace, their own speed. Katie, Stephanie, they do their thing. Sometimes I can drag the oldest in. She's in teenage land, but whatever. So I involve my kids. I don't disappear in a hole. Like, they come in, this is like an inviting space for everybody. We got the dog, we got treats, we got music playing. It's like a friendly family space. It's another space dedicated to family, right?
Yeah.
And this is what we do. We do art, right? I also organize my space so that if I want to sit down and do 15 minutes of art, everything's there. It's right there. I can sit down and just jump right in. I don't have to get stuff out. And that doesn't take a lot of space, because when we lived in a teeny tiny apartment during COVID, I had one corner of my living room and I had everything stacked up in shelves. I had one little tiny table. That was it. So I used to get everything out and put it all on carts, and we used to paint and paint. And then we used to put it away. But if you are working on something and you can possibly leave it out, be ready to just pick a pen and be like, I'm going to color for 10 minutes and then walk away. And you feel satisfied. Don't get discouraged if you don't get to art for the week. A lot of people get down and be like, oh, I haven't picked anything up in 2 weeks. I haven't drawn. When my dad died, I didn't do art for a month. Okay. Like, I just was like, nope, I'm not feeling it. And then one day I picked up some pastels and I'm like, this is going to be shit, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I made a shitty picture of a really sad looking girl, and I did it anyway. And that was enough to get me rolling again. Or I color. I see my little coloring books. I love to color because that's like childhood therapy. Go back to coloring. And also, a big thing I do is I make little wish lists. I make little, like, this is what I want to do for art projects. Like, I want to learn how to do lettering better. I want to learn how to draw gemstones. I want to practice Zentangles, learn more about perspective. Make yourself a giant, stupid, crazy, all holds barred wish list. Everything you want to do. And then on a rainy day, pick one and do it. Get off your damn phone, stop your scrolling, either pick a tutorial that you have, or pick, I don't know, learn how to do figure drawing, make a birthday calendar. I don't know. I have so many things. Swatch something. When all else fails and you can't do shit, swatch stuff. Swatch colors.
Girl, this is
so those are my
goals.
those
Yes.
are secrets for success, though. And for 40 plus years, like all the circumstances that I've been in, of being depressed, being anxious, being lonely, getting through a pandemic, raising babies all alone. I didn't have anybody to help me in Pittsburgh. So this is what I did. And no matter if I had no money, because there were times where I had nothing. And then there's times where I'm fortunate enough to buy the nicest supplies that I can afford. So I enjoy playing with my toys. You don't have to have a shit ton of stuff, but if you have something nice that's special that you enjoy, you're going to enjoy your art time, right?
Freaking yes. So everything you just said,
Right?
my head's gonna fall off. I'm trying not to nod like a crazy. I'm like, stop nodding your head, stop nodding your head. But like, yes, Susie. All right,
Yes.
that was gold.
That's where I'm at. So you,
Yeah.
that. And
Okay, that's so good. So
I'm ready to embellish on any one of those points.
So yes, but what people don't know about you, I could show them what you just said, which is literally like gold, like in and of itself. Be like, here you go. But what people do not realize, which is why I wanted to get you on this actual like face-to-face interview, is when people say, I'm busy, I don't know, have time for art. Inside, I'm laughing because I'm like, you don't know how Susie Spinato managed to deal with this, because no one has ever been busy as you have ever. You have had periods in your life when you've had the most immense, not only busyness, but physical, emotional, mental stress and distress. And through all of that, you still freaking managed to weasel in 15 minutes here and there. So what I would love for you to expound upon, so when people say, oh, I'm busy, and I'm not trying to, like, everyone really genuinely is busy, but for sure, but you were next level busy and dealing with levels of emotional, like I said, physical and mental stress that is so far above and beyond what is everyone else's just regular, I'm super busy. So could you actually go into the most extreme situations? Because I know you've shared a bunch of that with me, which it was a bitch. But really, so people could really wrap their brains around. Actually, I think part of the reason you have this amazing bullet list of strategies and tricks to help make sure that you get your beloved self-care time, because I look at art exactly the same way as you. I wasn't an artist. I only started it because I was desperate and I was miserable. I was poor. I was buried in children in diapers. And that's how mine came out of. So can you just tell everyone what I'm talking about? Because they're going to be like, what? Tell me how busy she was. But literally, your life was like a living hell, and you were saving lives and raising children and
watching
hell,
and
you still did it. So can you just give us a snapshot into that, and take as long as you would like and go as wherever you want to go? But no one's going to get it until they hear your story.
Introducing myself, because some people know me and some people
That would be good. Let's start there. So if everyone's new to my world, I'm Karen Campbell. I own Awesome Art School, and I met Susie online when she joined. Did you start off with just a drawing club?
I started off with a 5-minute face on YouTube.
On YouTube.
I wanted to draw a better picture of Billie Eilish for my daughter. I didn't know anything about drawing faces, so I just kind of did what I could do. I've been doing art since I was a little tiny child, because my father used to work night shift in a bakery, and everything I did during the day needed to be quiet. So I was quiet, and I made beautiful art from the time I was in kindergarten right up until today. Literally today.
Did not know that. That's so cool.
So I'm 52. And I live in upstate New York with my husband and my 3 cute little girls. I have a 9-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 13-year-old. And I have an Aussie doodle that's just a fluffy nut. And up until about 2 years ago, I was working full-time as a neonatal intensive care unit and pediatric ICU nurse. For 22 years, I did night shift and day shift here at a local hospital, and I did it for about 8 years when we lived in Pittsburgh. So I had teeny tiny babies. I had 3 kids under the age of 5 for quite some time. And I used to work night shift, 13-hour shifts, and I would sleep during the day, sometimes only 2 or 3 hours a day. And I would do 3 12-hour shifts in a row. And in between that, it was all the other stuff, laundry and groceries and house and things and stuff. And
Okay, I'm just gonna pause right there because I also had 3 kids in 5 years as well. So I can put myself in those shoes.
mhm. Yeah.
And even without any of the other things you just said, that struggle bus time. That's when I came into art and I thought my life was hard. And that's why I want you to share your story because that's nothing. My life was a cakewalk compared to the stress of alone being a neonatal nurse during the day. Let's just say you have that as your daytime shift and you don't even have the kids. You're still
Yeah.
saving lives, you're
Yeah.
still losing lives.
Yes.
And I've had kids in the NICU, so I understand what also that extreme emotions that the parents are putting on you, that you're putting on yourself. You have the doctors. I cannot even imagine. Then you have the layer of the sleep deprivation
Which is,
on top of that, which alone, again, by itself, take
yeah.
away the kids, take away the job, it will absolutely ruin you. It just absolutely ruin you. Susie, how the fuck did you still manage to be like, nah, it's cool. I'm gonna weasel in my 15 minutes of doodling. How?
So here's what I eventually figured out, that as a nurse, I'm helping people to get better and be well and feel well. And I take my job as a nurse, just it is the core of who I am. I was born literally to take care of people. I love it when people are happy. I love making people laugh. I love making people feel special and important and talented and just joyful. And one of the things that has always made people happy is when I do art and I give them my art, because a lot of my art I've given away for free. Over the years, I will make something for someone, and without them asking, without being commissioned or paid or anything, I'll say, oh, here, I painted you this, or I drew you this, because I thought I always wanted them to have a piece of me that was special. I wanted them to know that there was no other piece in the world that was made. It wasn't something that was mass produced. It wasn't something that was sold. They had a tiny piece of me forever. And that's something I even actually hope to pass on to my daughters, is that sometimes when I do my artwork, they don't know it, but on the back of my papers or in my journals, I write little messages to them so that
Oh, that's so
someday
sweet.
when I'm long gone, they will have all these beautiful pictures that I've painted and drawn and doodles and weird things that don't even look like anything, scribbles and stuff, but they'll have all these little messages and I love yous and things and stuff. And believe it or not, I actually started doing that even before I had kids. Kids, I've always dreamed of having kids.
You did? That
Love,
is so fascinating.
and that's part of the reason when I was little, I had millions of dolls. And so I literally was born to be a NICU nurse too, because I just love kids. I love babies. I love children. I love how they will literally make marks on a paper and then come to you so proud and be like, look what I made. Isn't it amazing?
Girl, that's the one thing I miss about teaching
Yes.
kids is the attitude. And that's why I'm such a
Oh,
stickler with my adults. Cause I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be
no,
like that. You can make a piece of shit and still be excited
yeah.
that you made it.
And
It
you
doesn't
can
matter what it
name
looks
it,
like.
put it up on the wall and
Yes.
happy every time you
Yeah,
look at it. And
totally.
so I look at art is, believe it or not, medicine. I look at it as self-care. I look at it as something that you can tangibly hold and enjoy. And you can look at a picture and it can bring you back to the day that it was snowing or raining, or the day that you made cookies with your kids. And it can bring you back to nice moments, sad moments. It can just be therapeutic for you to make something with your own hands. I think sometimes I'm always amazed that I start with just this blank piece of paper.
Mhm.
There's literally a blank sheet of paper. And then like hours later, I come up for air and I have something that's just so pretty. And it doesn't have to be perfect. The eye could be a little wonky and the lips aren't quite right and three-quarter faces, like don't even get me started. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I made something out of nothing. And now that gives me joy and maybe, just maybe somebody else happiness too. Like that's cool. Like,
Girl, I could not agree with everything you just said more. I feel the same way. I feel like that's the magic. Like I'm always like, if you can tap into that joy, and it isn't about the end result.
no.
It's like for me, I know it's like the flow state itself is
Mm,
worth a whole like hours discussion because that feels amazing. But
yeah.
yeah, I'm like creating something out of nothing.
Well, and believe it or not, when I found you at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, one of the things that you brought out in me, especially over the years, is that it doesn't have to be perfect. And you'll be painting along. And one of the things, I'm a perfectionist, I'm a details girl, dude.
Mhm.
Right up in there and make that eye look so realistic. You think that picture is just going to take a breath right in front of you. You know,
Yes.
staring back at me and going, whoa, I got to go back to that. It's hyper realism. It's tight, it's detailed, it's precise. But then you're sitting there and you're painting. You're like, oh, hell, that just happened. That's a drip. What? Who cares? We're going to paint right over that. We are. Yep. Doesn't matter. We're going to, oops, look at that. We can erase that. There's some gesso for that. It doesn't matter. And I was like, huh, she looks like she's having so much fun. And maybe she's onto something that I haven't tapped into yet because it really wasn't my personality type. And I was a little bit afraid. I'm like, what if I make this piece of shit? And I posted in the group, and people are like, dude, I thought you said this chick could draw. What is that? And I evolved over so many different projects that I've done with you and so many different facets. I think that's an important thing too, is just always try something new. Grab some new pen in the store. Who cares? Give it a whirl. Play
Yeah.
around. Mark it up. Do it up. Take some markers. I was determined to get those alcohol markers to do what I wanted them to do. And I just kept making crappy art. Just kept doing it. I bought so many marker pads at Michael's and just kept doing it until it looked good. And now I'm comfortable with it and I'm happy with it. But there's just so much to learn and so many things to explore and so many new art supplies to try.
Yes. And you can do it with frustration and getting annoyed at yourself that you made a mistake. And you can do it in a super negative way, right?
Yeah.
Or you can view it as a freaking party on your paper.
Yeah.
And who fucking cares? And just do
Cares.
whatever. Because
Doesn't
also I've been surprised. I am surprised 90% of the time that I'm about to pull something out. But it's only because I
Yeah.
don't let myself stop and worry about it. Just don't worry about it and just keep going. But I want to go back to self-care because that is actually, especially for women,
Mhm.
I know a lot of people are like, oh, I can't, this is a luxury. I've had to cut costs and art is a luxury and I don't, so therefore I cannot spend money. And I know that and this is a women issue for
Mhm.
sure,
Mhm.
because we feel guilty. I put myself in this exact square as well. We feel guilty when we are not taking care of other people's. We feel selfish when we are, where'd you go? We feel selfish when we're spending money and time on ourselves. We feel guilty if we're
Yeah.
parents or we're a
Yeah.
caregiver for our spouse, and God forbid we're doing something. And I think a lot of that is just culture and society and hasn't caught up to the fact that it's 2024 yet. And for me, when people are like, oh, it's art is a luxury that I cannot afford, I'm like, art is like, for me, it's like soul saving. It
Yeah.
is. It's
Well,
absolutely self-care. It's the same as going to a medical appointment for me.
yeah.
And I wish that more women would like stop and think harder before they just give it up because they feel guilty or they don't want to spend money on it, or they like, I'm too busy. This is dumb. Because I'm like, it's actually so, for those who's like, cup this is filling up, it's actually one of the most important things that you can do to take care of your like emotional and mental. And some of these you touched on your bullet points, but maybe could we return to your list too about how you started, about how you were able to see that art is a self-care procedure process and
Definitely.
how important it is and how you were able to through their like sleepless nights,
Yeah.
like fight for that time. Because I
Yeah.
think it's so important that as women, we do fight for our me time. I
Yeah.
feel so passionate about this. And I feel like people are like, oh, she's just saying that so they sign up to her class. I'm like, no, the only reason I have these classes is because the art is saving my life. Like, it's the
Well,
other way around.
that's true. And there was a period of my time of my life for quite a couple years where I was really very depressed. And then as a healthcare worker rolling into COVID and watching people die in my hands from this horrible pandemic, there was something that I needed to do. I needed to have an outlet for all of those feelings that was positive and uplifting. And it didn't cost a lot of money because, quite frankly, at that time, I didn't have a lot of money. I had 3 small children and a husband going through school to do what he's doing now. And I didn't buy the best of the best supplies. And people seem to think that the only way you can make good art is if you have really expensive supplies and that you have,
Nope.
and you really don't need
Mm-mm.
that. You have proven time and time again, you need a pencil. You need it,
Mm-hmm.
or you need some. I started out with really cheap watercolors, and I started out with just basic pencils, and I had a set of pencils that were like this fabulous little tin of a range of pencils that I got when I was like 10. My mom realized early on that I loved art, and they used to buy me art supplies for Christmas every year. It was, what do you want? Art stuff. I just always wanted art stuff. Do you want this? Nope, I want art stuff. And so it was, I needed some way to pull myself up when everything else was pushing on me and weighing me down. My family would come, the kids come home from school, and even my husband will come home and he'll say, you did art today. You have a big old grin and you're so happy and so proud of yourself. And I can tell when you've done something, even if it's a half an hour of coloring or something, I can tell you seem lighter, you seem happier, you seem more relaxed. And then I can turn around when they're
Oh,
all,
you're making me like weepy because
I can give the best
it's
of
so crazy.
family because I'm like healing myself. I'm
Mm.
taking care of the best part of me, which then in turn can literally mirror around and go out to the people that I take care of, that I care for, whether it's my patients, my kids, my neighbor, anybody who needs that. It's
Yeah, and it's also, let's just let that sink in for a minute because you're gonna make me literally cry because you're so right, especially as like a mom. When my kids were little, I knew that children mirrored their parents. I knew that intellectually, but I would
Mhm.
have periods where I forgot it because I was so busy being pissed off or mad or whatever. And I would see my kids, if I was pissed, I would see them just turn dark and evil.
Yeah.
And then I would be madder. And then the next day I'd be like, "Oh my god, they were like that because they were like that because of me. Like
Mhm.
that's my fault."
Oh,
And so
that's,
you're so right. You're so
yeah.
right though. Like that mirroring thing is so real. And you said when your husband could walk in the room and tell, that means you healed yourself
Yeah.
from the inside out with just your exercise of art practice for the day.
When I've even made sad pieces when I'm feeling down, it's not even always about being giddy and being joyful.
Oh, yeah, no, it's not the piece itself, it's the
You know,
process.
some of the things that I've done as a nurse, you literally hold people, and the most important family member in their whole entire life, and you have to help them say goodbye. You have to help them cope with what has just happened to them, or the joy of getting better, or the extreme sadness of letting them go. I feel like you have to have a place to put that's constructive. Go write a poem, go paint a watercolor, go. It's at that point, it's not about going to create this perfect
No,
masterpiece. There
yeah.
have been many times where I've poured out all my sad into a picture on the paper, and then I feel like I'm unburdened by it. It's out there, and it's just, it's either pretty or it's just ugly, but it
It's not
reflects
about that. Yeah.
them.
It's not about that. That's how I feel. And to me, I'm like, I have to get it out. It's in here and I
Yeah.
have to get it out. And there's some process that goes from here through my out when it goes out my hands and it's on the paper. It doesn't matter what the fuck is on my paper.
No,
It does not matter at all. It's
but it
this
is
process.
and you can learn skills from somebody like yourself so that when you have this vision, you're
Yeah.
like, I want to make a really beautiful sunset, or I want to draw a whimsical little fairy in the woods because I want to literally just, escape or whatever. It's so nice to have a toolkit to sit there and say,
Mhm.
I can do this. I can draw a fairy, or I can paint a sunset, or I can paint whatever it is I dream up in my head.
Yes.
Doesn't have to
Yes.
even be a thing. Just knowing how to use your tools.
I know. And no, I know. And honestly, and then when you put them together. So I think this is the crux of talking about. This is when we say artists, when you can express yourself.
Yeah.
You can express yourself with a Sharpie and make the
Yes.
ugliest backstage
Yep.
and feel better. But can you imagine being super pissed, taking that Sharpie and making like a fucking amazing art piece instead? Like,
Yeah.
that's like next level cool.
It's magic. Yeah.
It is fucking magic.
It's
And
literally
so
when you can sit there
yes.
and you are so absolutely beside yourself, livid, and you paint angry. I
Yep.
paint angry before you
Oh
mess.
yeah.
You get
Yeah.
charcoal, you start
Yeah.
smashing, pushing, and squishing and squashing charcoal. It's all good, and
Yeah.
it's right down, and you're just
Yep.
I feel better now.
Yep. And then you make a masterpiece and you're like, damn. And then it's
Yeah.
it's the cherry on top. It's freaking amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. Practical tips for people who are now feeling a little less sorry about themselves that they don't have time because
Yeah.
they don't work at a NICU and they are sleeping hopefully at night when
Yep.
they should be and they don't have little babies at home. What are practical tips that anyone can use to make doing their art time easy, accessible, quick, and fun?
Okay, so just a couple things that I do. I try to set up my art space to be easily accessible, even if it's a tiny art space. We do have the privilege now of having an extra room in our house that we didn't really know what else to use it for. It was an odd room off of the kitchen. We put some old art tables in here and we put all of our stuff. The kids put all of their art stuff. We have music in here. We have all of our art toys, as we call them. We come in here, and this is like a family space. So anybody at any time can literally get up, come in here, sit down, and do art. In my old tiny, teeny, tiny apartment where all of us stayed together, we had one table. My art desk was the cool place to sit with the wheelie chair and whatnot, and everything was just compartmentalized there. And if you wanted to do art, you went and sat at the art table in the art corner. It was like the place to be. So having a place that's special with your favorite stuff just out and ready to like art at a moment's notice, like you can literally put in a load of laundry and say, okay, I'm going to go sit for 15 minutes and I'm going to color something, or I'm going to make a little sketch in a book and try my new pen and just do it. Just do it. Literally just go sit down and do it. And don't say, I'm going to sit down for 3 hours and do a masterpiece, because that never happens in my world. Never, ever.
Right.
I
Same.
always break stuff into manageable chunks,
Yeah.
realistic chunks. And if crazy things are going on for the day, I'm like, no, I'm not touching that, because then you get discouraged and you're like, I didn't get to do my art today, and you get all bent out of shape. So some days just table it. Some days are not arting days.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. It's funny because I think listening to so much of what you're saying, I'm like, it's the same for me. It's the same for me. And I think
Yeah.
that's a lot of it is adaptations when you're
Yeah.
a mom.
Yeah.
None of us have time.
Yes.
That's why people are like, how are you so quick? I'm like, because I never had any time. If I
No.
didn't have these kids the whole time while I'm building Awesome Art School and building all these lessons, my lessons would have been 4 hours. I never had 4 hours. I still don't have 4 hours. I have at the most 2, at my most luxurious like free for all afternoon. I have 2 hours max before and if someone has to come get picked up from school. The dog needs to walk.
Yep.
I got to make dinner. Somebody's got to
Mhm.
go to Target. Like I got to
Yep.
pick up the prescription from Walgreens. Like,
I know, like
and
these people always want to eat. What's up with
I
that?
know. Oh my God. I used to say to
Always
my kids, I'm like,
who
3
is-
times a day. 3? I feel like that's excessive. I used to say that to my kids all the time. They're like, Mom. I'm like, 3? Come on.
I mean, Laundry Fairy quit like eons around here
Oh, amen. Yes.
left. She just up and quit. So I don't
Yes.
know, looking for her. Anyway, like it's not uncommon for me to be waiting for my kids down at the bus stop watching a live. I'll be in my car.
Yeah.
My kids get in, they're like, "Oh, is that Karen? You know, oh Karen, we said Karen," and they're trying to get in, and they love you. And it's totally acceptable that when we're waiting for something, we're waiting for the dentist or we're waiting what we
Oh,
have,
yeah.
we share like the earbud and we'll be sitting there watching a lesson, a tutorial. Because I like to watch my tutorials all the way through first and then go do them. But a lot of times my kids and I will sit and we'll watch tutorials while we're waiting somewhere for something at the
Yeah.
gym when their sibling is in class for 2 hours. We'll sit and watch 2 tutorials. There's always ways to steal time. Like you literally can steal it and you can waste it just by scrolling at other people's beautiful art, which I mean, that's inspiring, but then it's okay.
I still haven't made anything. Mhm.
Everybody else do art, but I'm going to go make some of my own.
Yeah.
It's
That's a really good tip too. It's a
Mhm.
really good tip to watch something first. I think that's helpful too because it can get you in the mindset.
Yeah.
But then it's also really important to actually pick up your pencil
You
and
got
also draw too.
mhm. And
You
everybody
got to do the next. But it doesn't have to be like you said, it doesn't have to be 4 hours. You can do it for
No.
10 minutes and you can that's why I did my 5-minute face video, which is what you watched when you first met me because I was like, you literally only need 5 minutes. Like you don't need
No.
you can make a lot with just and that video. All I have is a numbers 2 school pencil and a Q-tip. You do not need a lot of supplies.
But give yourself permission to make a total piece of shit because
Yeah.
because there are times, man, I watch you and Lucy paint and draw and magic. It's like magic. It's like you just know how to do it. And I'm like, wow, what if I try this lesson and it's complete shit? And well, like I told somebody, hey, I'm gonna try that in the live, and then I look at it and go, wow, this is so bad. But then I'm like, nope, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna post. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna sit down and
Yeah.
do. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
It really doesn't matter. What do you
You know,
think? Hurricanes matter. Cancer matters. This drawing, this lesson, it
no,
literally doesn't matter. But the
no,
feelings that you get after you do them matter. So
yeah,
that actually does matter, which is
yeah,
why you should carve out a minute for yourself
mhm,
because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
freaking important.
It's really rewarding when you can sit down on a rainy day and you can put some beautiful music on and get yourself a cup of coffee and you can paint something beautiful while the weather is miserable. And then you can go on and do the laundry. The laundry isn't going anywhere.
Not going anywhere, trust me.
It's secretly multiplying in
Yeah.
there, making pretty art. You might as well go make pretty art.
And the way I look at it is I would much rather be doing art than my laundry anyways. I'm just going to go ahead and do the art.
Yeah. And it gets like sometimes I will literally, you saw an alarm on my phone. I set alarms. I'll say, all right, Suze, you can sit down for 30 minutes and swatch your new pencils. But then 30 minutes goes by. You got to go tumble that laundry. Like, you got to,
Yes.
people
So
need clothes.
yeah, that's actually a really good tip. And that's what I do too.
Yeah.
My making art time is actually when I schedule all the other shit I have to do
Mhm.
and I chunk it together just so I have an open spot. And any open spot on my calendar is where for me, I'm creating my lessons. I wish I could have time just to art actually, I make my books for me. My books are my
Mhm.
secret guilty pleasure because I don't have to hit record and I can just put my music on and do whatever. But make a space in your calendar, schedule it in your calendar. I think that's a huge important tip. And
Yeah.
and also, if this is what I do, if I know I have that whole empty morning
Mhm.
where I'm going to be able to, where I'm going to be busy and I'll be alone and actually have those
Mhm.
angelic times, I will then the night before I'll clean up my art studio
Yes,
like
plan
before.
it.
So you're not, so like you would plan anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
your grocery shopping. And
I
then
really do multitask. Like you've seen me when my kids are out swimming in the pool. I pull up a chair in the shade and I set up my little table and they're like, "Oh, mommy, are you going to watercolor while we swim?" And I say, "Yep." And I sit there and I don't make a masterpiece out by the pool. You can't do that. It's going to get splashed with water. It's going to tip over. It might fall in the dirt. Who knows?
yeah.
So you've got to take your couple of pens and just do some, just
Yes.
it. Literally
It's
just do it.
just do anything. And this is the beauty of art journals and sketchbooks where the whole book is permission to make shit, right? Every
Yep.
page is
Oh
just
yeah.
fucking
Yep.
make something.
Mhm.
And I also found that I did the same thing when I had carpool. I had kids that were at 3 different schools and I had to sit at 3 different carpools. I mean, I wasted an hour and a half of every afternoon for
Mhm.
years just sitting in a freaking car in traffic, and
Yeah.
I drew the entire time. So
Yeah.
one tip I have too is get off of Facebook. Get
Mhm.
off of Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put a lesson on or put YouTube on and pick up your pencil and do it at the same time. You don't have to sit there passively.
Yeah.
Especially, I used to set all the doctor's appointments, like all the dentist appointments. There's so many appointments waiting. That's all
Well,
prime art time.
like people will say, "Oh, geez, I don't want to draw attention to myself. I'm not good enough to have people come up and look over my shoulder and say, 'What are you doing?'" I was in the car dealership one time waiting 4 hours for my car to be fixed, and I sat at a table with 3 pens, 3 micron pens, and an ink journal. And I did tangles. And some people started coming over and saying, "What are you doing over there?" And it gave me a chance to talk about art, which I love doing because people will always say, I used to paint when I was younger and I tried to do this or I tried to do that. What do you suggest?" And I'm like, "Go on Awesome Art School, learn how to do this. You can paint, you can draw, you can, if you can't draw, you can do mixed media. Mixed media is amazing for people who say, I'm not an amazing artist who can draw things perfectly." And neither am I. Sometimes things just look completely alien. And I feel like just drawing a flower because who cares what it looks like, what I want it to look like? It doesn't matter. So you don't always have to be in the mood to do something hyper
Yeah.
realistic either. And that's
Yeah.
where the variability in your clubs comes in. For
Mm.
me, it was a matter of if I'm not in the mood to draw, I can hop on over here and do some cool stuff with textures
Mm.
and gel prints and just working with my hands and making something pretty and colorful.
Yeah.
Who cares? And you can,
Right.
there's really literally something for everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what appealed to me. And that's what I just started taking more and more steps and getting involved in more and more of the lessons.
Yeah. Luckily, I have like art ADHD, so I just like to skip around because I'm the same way. Like I have different moods and I want to do
Yeah.
in different moods. And
I,
sometimes Sean will be like, "Don't, you're doing too much. Like you need to like only do one club." And I'm like,
I
I
want
like,
all. I want to sculpt. I want to draw. I want to paint. I want to all of it. All of it.
yeah, same.
Whatever.
I know. I can't get enough of all of it. And sometimes I'll go 6 months without, I will have no interest in painting and then, or vice versa. And I just get in these like modes, but thank God I have the other modes so I can indulge your passions, but you don't need a lot of time and you don't need a lot of money. Interestingly, I actually absolutely hate it when people watch me draw. Like uninvited eyeballs. If you're there for a class and we're in person, obviously that's what I'm there for. But I don't like attracting the attention of strangers when I'm drawing whatsoever. So I don't want to talk about art. I get super self-conscious. I know that sounds weird, but I really am like, don't look at, because it's so it feels very private when I'm doing that for me.
Yeah.
But what I love at the beginning, in case anybody missed it, was you can make scribble scrabbles. You can swatch. Swatching is actually, not only does it feel good, it like scratches your creative itch, but it's also incredibly useful and beneficial. So normally I hate swatching because I feel like I'm wasting time. But there's other times where I don't want anybody to look at me, but I want to get something done and I want to be creative. Swatching is actually great for a lot of different reasons and in a lot of different instances and for a lot of different mediums. You can make, you've been swatching with your new pencils. That's right.
Dolls.
Yeah,
And they're
exactly.
amazing. No,
Yeah.
you can do something like useful. You can make yourself a useful tool while you're doing art.
Yeah,
Just
no,
watching.
it is. It's
Yeah.
true.
Yep.
One of my favorite stress relief activities for myself is sometimes I'm not in the mood to do a lesson or I don't have time. Swatching is another art activity you can do if you only have minutes here and there, where
Mhm.
you have 5 minutes. I'll just swatch the yellows, right? I have
Yep.
5 minutes. I'll just swatch the reds. And you can talk to people while you're doing it too. It's also can be like, because it doesn't
Yep.
require your full attention. So you could be watching a TV show while you're swatching. You can like fit it in different area. I can talk
Yep.
to my whole family while I'm just swatching out
Yeah.
colors.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's very relaxing. So
Yeah.
even just swatching, even if you're not creating
Mhm.
art, you can still be creative and totally find a lot of different times where you can fit in
Mhm.
different levels.
I had a funny thing that I do. You might find it funny. I have so many little people going in 40 different directions. There's
Oh yeah.
gymnastics, there's school stuff, there's work things. There's so many different directions that I make myself lists to be organized. And I know a lot of people put lists on their phones, and that's awesome. But I think to myself, if I'm going to take the time to write a list, it's going to be pretty. So I do my to-do list and my little bullet journal and just my little $8
Yes. Yep.
from I make my lists pretty. I
Yeah.
make them pretty. Whatever.
Yes. Oh,
Like,
that's so funny. I know. Here's my little list, which I also find pretty. Just the
it,
paper is pretty.
one thing that bothers me the most is when people say they don't want to waste their supplies making something, and I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
then what the hell do you have them for? Like, I want all of the markers and all the colors and pen because I want to use them. Like, they literally get wasted when they just sit there and they don't get used.
And not only that, if I can just piggyback real quick, what else is actually a waste of your art supplies is when you don't use them and they dry up and you
I
end up
know.
having to
Oh,
throw them away,
yep. Nope. Mm-mm.
which
Nope.
happens a lot. And it's not
Yeah.
fun. That's the worst because you're like, I
Yeah.
didn't even have the chance to play with that.
Use it. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. But that's also why you shouldn't have more than you can handle,
Yeah.
because I know some people get real gun ho and they're like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy hundreds of dollars of all these watercolors. And then they get overwhelmed and they're like, oh, I'm not good enough to use those good supplies. So it's like freezes you and you're like, I don't know how to use all that. So I'm just not gonna. And
100%, 100%. Or there's a lot of us that are hoarders, and I
yeah,
fully am a hoarder. And I think that's super common. I think a lot
yeah,
of women, we hoard art supplies instead of shoe. Okay, I also hoard shoes, but like it's like in the like shoes, handbag, art
yeah,
supply, like they're
yeah.
all together.
Oh yeah.
But, and I think what makes me sad too is I think a lot of times you're like, I am getting ready to art, right? Like you
Yeah.
go to the store and you
Yeah.
collect them all.
Yeah.
But one, also, if, oh no, but also one, if you don't know how to use them, like
It's
also
very
take
intimidating. I'll tell
yeah.
you a secret because you're gonna laugh. Like when I did the first tutorial with you on watercolor, I hated it. My paper was buckled, my brush was falling apart. I didn't know what I was doing. I literally made mud on my paper and I just was like, this is crap. I'm never doing this again. This is stupid. I am not a watercolorist. And now what do I do all the time? I love watercolor. Love it. You need to learn, just like somebody, you don't go in and just cook this magical recipe in the kitchen. I always tell people, they say, what is your secret little recipe for making good art? You have to have decent materials, like
Yep.
the best that you can comfortably afford. If just go get some nice $8 paper, get yourself a $3 bun,
Yeah.
get you can afford decent materials, good instruction is really key, because if you have really great stuff but you don't know how to use it, you're
Yeah,
going
you
to get frustrated
mhm.
and it's going to look like crap because you're not using it properly. And you've got to have fun. What do we do in the lives? We sit there, we make jokes. Oh my god, look at this. And that is one of the things too that I love about the group, is all of the people that come in, and everybody's different. Everybody's
Mhm.
just totally different and has a different life and different stories and different things and different ages, and everybody's just so nice and so supportive. Like you
Mhm.
and you put a picture on there and it's 11 p.m. because sometimes that's the only time that's quiet in my house. And I post this picture and I'm like, okay, I hope they like it. And the things that people say are just so incredibly kind that it actually like heals my heart a little bit and gives me some faith in mankind again, because these days the world is just so damn crazy and
Yeah.
loony that I feel like this is like my safe bubble. I
Mhm.
literally come into this happy space and nobody can burst my bubble. Like it's just a great community and the people in it are just they're my friends. They're
I
all
know.
friends and they're like a family to me.
I
So,
do. I only spend one place on the internet, and that is in our Facebook group and nowhere else.
yeah. Yeah,
There's nowhere else I want to be.
no, it's just nice. And one of my favorite things to do is when people come and say, "Hey Susie, what color did you use?" or "What did you do to get those eyes to glow or sparkle or what?" I'm so happy to tell you what I figured out and what I did. And
Yeah.
I'm so anxious to tell you how you can make something pretty on your paper. It's not like, oh, now and that's a secret and I'm not going to share that because
Yeah.
I want to have the pretty picture. I want everybody to look at what they made and be like, "Oh my God, I did that. Holy crap.
Yes.
It actually worked." You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's a magic of its own, because it truly, honestly, doesn't matter. Are you having fun? Did you have the best time? Are you proud? Then like A plus all around. And that also, that positivity is also contagious and infectious. And it helps everyone to be more creative because everyone is happy. We're all getting support from one another, myself freaking included. And then it's okay. What else are we going to make? What else are we? Let's go make some more stuff.
Struggling. If you're like, "Damn it, I tried this stuff and it's smudged all over the place," and you're like,
Yeah.
"Girl, you're using the wrong paper."
Yeah, totally.
I love it when people are like, I sorry.
That's okay.
That's also the secret to my life. I set 7,000 alarms so that I don't miss anything.
Yeah, I know. I have my eyeballs on the clock. I'm pretty sure my
But
groceries were just downstairs, but that's okay. They can wait. Again, they're not going anywhere.
no,
So my dog doesn't eat them, but other than that, we're good.
now I think that's the thing too, is what we also can do is I'll reach out to somebody and say, "Gosh, this girl just there's something that's off about her, like uncomfortable. What did I do?" When you're like, "Oh, you cut off this and you should have rounded this and made this smaller." And sometimes that makes all the
Oh
difference.
yeah, helping people see perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that with Lucy a lot. We'll go by and we'll sometimes even taking the photo to send to someone, you see it right away because you're already looking at it from their perspective, and you're like, oh, they're freaking cross-eyed. No wonder they look
Yep.
crazy.
Yep.
But yeah, it's an incredible community, and yeah, I am so happy to
So
be
yeah,
right in a member with everyone else.
those are
Is
just
there
some of my little secrets and
Those are huge. I really love my favorites are really is having your special little corner too. It does not have to be a room. You
Mm-mm.
don't need special supplies. You can have a chair. You can be bed bound, have
Yes.
a
Yep.
TV tray,
Yep.
and you can art your little face off for 8 hours straight
Yep.
with a little some
Yep.
pencil cups, a
Mhm.
water brush. And in fact, I'm going to start doing I'm going to do like a video series on this because you can really do so much with so little. And I know this because I travel so much and I travel so much as an art teacher. So I have
Yeah.
to take my super limited supplies. I can go
Gosh, that's
gangbusters.
when I went to Scotland and I had this carry-on suitcase, and my husband is looking at a pile of supplies and he's going, "Honey, I love you, but
But
that's
no.
not all gonna fit."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "But I need those pencils and I need these and I gotta have my," and he's like, "No, do what Karen said. You're supposed to bring one art journal and one set of paints and this pens and things and
Yeah,
settings,
yeah, that's it.
one pencil pouch." And I'm like, "Oh, you're so mean." And I literally cried like tears because I couldn't bring my
Yeah.
stuff. But I'm gonna go to this gorgeous, beautiful place and make crappy art because I don't have all my toys. And what did I do? I-
Made amazing art.
It was fine. It was lovely.
Oh,
It was incredible.
by the way, guess whose art is being featured in my Mingle article that's coming out? I
Who?
I haven't even told you that yet.
Oh my gosh.
I
That's
gave,
so cool.
don't thank me, it was your ability. I gave the editor. So for anyone watching, my article was published in Mingle based on, which is published by Stampington and Company. I've been featured quite a few times with them. They're a lovely, they make amazing, gorgeous magazines.
Yeah.
Art Journaling Magazine, Stampington and Company, Greencraft, Somerset, and Mingle are some of their popular ones. And they wanted to republish this same article, but with more photos. So I sent them, I don't know, a whole bunch and with permission from people that were there. And Susie's was one of them. And they only picked one additional photo for the whole article.
Wow.
And it was yours.
Oh,
And I never told you. I was going to
You
keep it as a surprise, but I thought this would be a fun way to reveal that anyway.
and I can honestly tell you, I told everyone on the planet that I knew when you published my picture in your book, The Women of the World, that just the fact that you take such a selection of the community's work and you include everyone, but you go through and you post the pictures of the people that have done the lessons, and there's this whole range of how everyone interpreted it. I love that. You're not just picking like this one because it was perfectly done. You're picking such a wide representation of all the interpretations of that lesson. And sometimes people go like completely rogue and have this cool idea and twist.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I never thought of
Yeah, totally.
that. And I love that you're so open to that. You can literally take a lesson and just run with it. And
Yeah.
you share them, and it shows people that whatever capacity or whatever way, whatever twist they want to do that lesson, or it inspires them to do three other things on their own, and they just go
I
on their own.
I
That's the
actually
Mhm.
I actually think there's nothing cooler than that.
Yeah.
I think that there's nothing cooler
Mhm.
than having someone be so inspired that they go off and do it 50 different other ways. I think that's like the apex of creativity. So I celebrate the shit out of that. And that's why I featured all of those different lessons. I also got such a crack out of it because um that whole book, and I forgot I had done that whole book, Whimsical Women of the World, is in markers. And for all of the, I think I ended up featuring 86 different people's works in that book. And
Yeah.
you know how many were in markers? Like 8. But I think probably some teachers would be so offended. They'd be like, no one is doing this right and my way. And I just thought that was the coolest thing because it just means that people are, digesting the lessons and they're just getting so carried away that they're running to the art rooms and doing all this crazy other stuff. I don't think that is the coolest compliment actually ever because it's like something I'm doing is sparking something in their brains. That's yes, I'm going to go get my collage paper, even though Karen is
Yeah.
not anywhere near talking about collage.
No.
I think that's the coolest thing in the whole world. Yeah,
Yeah.
I need to do another book where I'm sharing other people's. That was really cool.
Mm.
It was a very cool experience. I
Yeah.
fucking love that book too.
It
but-
just makes you feel so proud to when somebody recognizes something that you're proud of. You're trying so hard and you want to do such a good job on this lesson, and that's where everybody comes in and supports each other, and they're like, oh, I love what you did, and
Yeah.
I love just scouring all the lessons and like making my little personal comments. And if people know my personality, they'll know I just want to make that connection with everybody and make them feel inspired and feel important and feel like you took time to do this picture and it's beautiful, and
Yes.
that's the piece of
Yes.
you, and that's awesome. Do it again.
Yes.
More. Woohoo.
Yes, I know. And I know deep down that there's a segment of people who hate that fact that I don't give feedback. Criticism. But I'm like,
But only if you ask for it. If
I'm like, if
people
you ask me for feedback, I will give it to you. But
Yeah.
I would never, I would like, and it's shocking to me. I will post in like a quote unquote real art space, a piece
Mhm.
of work, and you just get shredded from top to
Yeah.
bottom.
Yeah.
It is awful.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's the faster way that you can shut down someone's
Yeah.
spark and creativity than to
Yeah.
do that. And that's about anything. So why would art be any different? You should always be kind to people. They're doing the best that they can. They're having the best day. It's freaking paper. Who cares? Like,
Well,
you're happy. There's no reason no one else should be happy.
there's nothing like a child to come in to your art room and keep you humble, because she'll look at the piece of art and they look and you're like, do you like it, baby? Look what I made. And she's like, did you mean to make her look like she has a unibrow, or like she looks cross-eyed? Did you mean to do that? And you're, yes, I sure did. And dude, kids will keep you humble. Or they come in and something you've been struggling with for half an hour, you think this is just pure shit. They come in and go, oh, mommy, that is so pretty. And they promptly steal it and hang it on the wall.
Oh,
Let me tell you, like, there is just, when my kids come to me and Katie disappears up in her bed and she's like doing markers for an hour in her journal, because she literally sometimes won't even watch your tutorials. She'll just copy the picture. And I'm like, how the hell do you do that?
which is also so valid and amazing. Yeah. Like, whatever.
Did you watch the lesson? She'll say, no, I just drew it. And she'll give it to me and she'll say, here, post it. And I'm like, what? She's like, come on, I want Karen to see it. You got to post it. And they come to me with all these pictures. And I'm thinking, oh, the people in the group are going to be like, dude, stop posting your kids' work. But
no, always post your kids' work. They're people too.
oh, yeah.
They're people too. Actually, my son just said this to me 2 days ago. We were in the car. I was driving with my son, Max, and I forget what we were talking about. And I was like, I'm really sorry that I am not like Sally, homemaker mom. Like, I don't do the cooking. I don't do the cleaning. Okay. And everyone's like, oh, she pays people. No, like, it doesn't happen. Like, my kids just forage. They fend for themselves every meal. Like, they do their own laundry because I'm not doing it. Like, I hate every domestic duty that was made for a woman. I loathe, and I won't do it. I was like, I'm really sorry that your life is like a chicken nugget and you do your own laundry. Like, I understand I am the worst. And I just, thank you for putting up with me. And he just looks at me. He was like, Mom, I would much rather have you as a mom because you treat me like a person. Because a lot of friends I have who have the perfect mother with a perfect dinners on their plate every morning, and they hate each other. And it just, when you said that comment, I was like, you should post your kids, because also kids are humans too. And back to the fact that she does their art by just a picture, that's also just as valid. That's another way that has sparked, even if it's just glancing at something in the lesson, that's sparking someone's creativity. And that gives me so much joy to know that. So in any way that shakes down, whether it's different materials, if it's just glancing at it, if it's pressing play, it's working its magic, and we're all getting more creative. We're all being nicer to one another. And as far as I'm concerned, that's
my husband, I think, is a very intelligent man, and he says things to me sometimes just in little snippets that make me stop and think. And some of the coolest things he's said to me, at times he'll say, Susie, did it really matter that the laundry was perfectly folded and put away and all caught up? Because I'm a crazy, the laundry's caught up. It's never caught up. It's going to be
never caught up. Mm-hmm.
And he'll say, do you think your kids remembered the day that the laundry was all caught up and folded? Or do you think that they will forever remember the day that y'all spent in the art room rocking out to Taylor Swift and painting and getting paint everywhere, getting paint on the dog, like laughing, having a good time? Do you think they're going to remember the laundry? Or are they going to remember that rainy day or the snow day from school that you spent arting together and making pictures? And I'm like, you can never get that back. It never comes back. Yep. It's, once that's gone, it's gone.
Yep.
You know? So for me, it's more about really just, building that like quality into my life. The whole world can be crazy. I don't care. Go be crazy.
Yeah. Oh, and it is.
In here, it's just magic. It's magical. So that's how I carve out time to make magic. And I used to do it with my patients. I would go in, they knew me as the nurse that would go into the little whiteboards on their walls.
Yeah.
Hospital room. I draw crazy pictures with shit Sharpies and little markers. I would draw like cool pictures and we draw together. And I'm a big fan of art therapy. We used to do art with the occupational therapists, with the kids who were recovering from injuries and things. So I really think that sometimes people have a view that the art might be viewed as like a waste of time. Why are you doing that? What are you doing? Why are you coloring? Why are you painting something that you're never going to sell?
Right. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. What's the point? And it even feels silly even now to say that. Oh, I can't. I'm going to be late because I'm finishing up a drawing. It sounds like insane.
Yep.
Who's drawing? It's 2024. Who the hell draws with a pen?
Mhm.
Like everyone, it sounds crazy, but it's sacred.
My kids always hear, I can't come to bed yet until I'm done with the fairy. And they're just
Yeah.
like, okay.
Oh my God. I know. I've been there too, sister. I just want to circle back to one other thing that was on your list, which was, and I think this is so incredibly important. I think it was number one,
Mhm.
especially for, again, I feel like this is such a woman thing where a lot of us are spouses, mothers, we're caretakers for something. It could just be our 12 dogs. It doesn't even have to be for other humans. Or they're like you, where they also had like a super demanding job. For you, are there any tips on your sheet of paper of tricks that we haven't talked about yet that we have left out? Because I just want to make sure that list was all gold and I just want to make sure we didn't leave anything out.
Just like I say, my biggest thing is don't feel guilty about taking that little chunk of time. And again, you don't have to disappear. I don't lock myself in a dungeon
Right.
and disappear and neglect my family completely. If they need something, they know I can stop what I'm doing. They'll say, when your watercolor's dry, come and help me do this.
I love
But
that. I love that.
you can incorporate, you don't have to just disappear. Like a lot of people
Mm.
think that me time is everyone else on the planet falls away. And if you know you have kids, pets, anything, like as
Yeah.
soon as you sit down, you got everything ready, somebody needs something. And
Mhm.
so I pop up and I say, okay, what do you need? I'll take care of it. And then I come back to it.
Yes.
They're happier. I'm happier. Nobody feels bad about it. Nobody feels guilty. Don't feel guilty.
Yeah, don't feel
Because
guilty. And also, it might even make you more efficient if you get everyone's needs met
yeah,
first.
yep,
You can then go take care of yourself, have you time. And if they try anything, be like, "Dit, dit, dit,
yep,
I just took care
yep,
of for you. You're
yep.
good for a minute," like you've said.
Mowed the lawn. Now I am going to watercolor for 2 hours.
Yes,
Bye.
exactly. Yes,
Yep.
exactly. I think that's such
Yeah.
genius. And this is so gold. I think this is a perfect time to wrap up. I
Okay.
think that this will be incredibly inspiring for a lot of people who are feeling guilty
Mhm.
or who think they have no time. And I do want to encourage people to put down their phones,
Mhm.
get off the doom scroll, and go log in and do a lesson and fill your soul with something
Even if
fun today.
you do the lesson, watch the
Yeah.
lesson.
Yeah.
It might inspire you to do something else.
Yes.
Who knows?
Yes.
It
Exactly. Who
can happen.
knows? Yes.
So,
And do with it what you will, but go do something.
yeah.